Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. أما بعد أحبتي في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أسأل الله كريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة ويسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى the Almighty accepts our good and forgives our evil, protects us from kulli su wa makruh, blesses us with ikhlas wa thabat ala sunnat nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أحبتي في الله, continue on in our perusal of have mercy upon Salafiyyah, that this is the second sitting, and the Sheikh begins to talk about the maqsad, the intent of why he wrote this short treatise, or in fact, why he gave this speech. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday, and today we'll further go into and explore what the Sheikh has to say as far as as far as the muqaddimah, as far as the introduction of why he wrote this article or this short treatise. So he says, in this article, I speak openly about what many of my Salafi brothers quietly think about, due to what they see from many people who nowadays ascribe to Salafiyyah. Whereas in reality, these same people are harming it due to their disgusting actions and shameful statements, to the extent that people insult pure Salafiyyah due to them. And people have turned away from Salafiyyah due to their harsh mannerisms, insults, and abuse. Here, Sheikh Badr, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, is really hitting home and going to the crux of this important matter. And that is, there has been people who, in the name of the da'wah to Ahl Sunnah, da'wah to Salafiyyah, that have distorted many principles of Salafiyyah and the da'wah of Ahl Sunnah, and have misbehaved and have had disgusting, unbelievable traits and characteristics. And so the Sheikh here is highlighting this factor. He's distancing himself and he's distancing Ahl Sunnah from these types of traits. This is absolutely imperative. And in fact, this kind of speech should have been said long time ago, meaning this was a breath of fresh air. And I think the Sheikh gave this speech. It might have been now, maybe it's almost probably, I would imagine, about 6 to 10 years, but even prior to that, it required rectification amongst the youth. The youth themselves required rectification and to be called to true da'wah to Ahl Sunnah. And understanding the da'wah to Ahl Sunnah is not about a trend, it's not about an individual, it's not about a particular sheikh or a particular few mashayikh, but this da'wah is precious, and the da'wah is the pure call. And as we said many times before, that call is, as Imam Muqbil bin Hadi al-Wadi'i, Allah yarhamuhu, so eloquently articulated when he said, Da'watu Ahl Sunnah, da'watu min kitabillah ila kitabillah, wa min sunnati Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, ila sunnati Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So he said the da'wah of Ahl Sunnah, it's the da'wah from the book of Allah to the book of Allah, and from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So letting us know that the da'wah to Ahl Sunnah is a pure call, and it's not a call based on ashkhas, on individuals and personalities and cliques and hizb, ahzab. So the Sheikh here, as he mentioned, he said, I speak openly, and Jazallah khairan to the Sheikh for this, about what many of my Salafi brothers quietly think about, due to what they see from many people who nowadays ascribe to Salafiyyah. Many people who ascribe to Salafiyyah. And again, we mentioned a qaida yesterday, which is al-ibra bi haqa'iq laysa bi musammiyat. The reality of something is in its substance and in its reality, not in a claim or a name. So the fact is, many people claim Salafiyyah, but they may be takfeeree, they may be jihadi, they may be kutubi. They may have tendencies towards Sayyid Qutb and his ideology. There are many false claims, and then there are those who may distance themselves from all of those trends, but at the same time, they may have traits of being extreme, ghulu, and they might be involved themselves in tasri' fi tabdi', in that they're in a hurry. They're in a hurry to declare others to be innovators, and they do it hastily and often without evidence. Or they could be to another extreme, as we have seen as a trend. Some people, as they say, that are mumayya, that they have belittled and almost distanced themselves from the principles of Ahl Sunnah. So both of these extremes are madhmuma. Both of these extremes are madhmuma. They're both sinful or and unbefitting traits of anyone, as far as claiming to be from to follow the madhab of the Salaf. And another thing the Sheikh highlighted, he said, due to their disgusting actions. So that lets us know that there are people in the name of Salafiyyah, in the name of Da'wah to Ahl Sunnah, who do disgusting actions, meaning that their extremism leads them to speak with evil and wicked names and claims against people. And their extremism can even lead them to deviate to the extent to where they lie and where they're deceptive and act dishonorable and distort the principles of Ahl Sunnah and go outside of the principles of Ahl Sunnah and allow for their desires and their hawa to dictate how they behave. And one of the misconceptions that I think has been widespread, and a lot of us were infected with it. I can say myself, again, we didn't know the importance in our time of manners and things like this, that is a part of Salafiyah. How can you say that manners are not a part of Salafiyah? We know Salafiyah, the asl is the aqidah, and it is the minhaj, the methodological approach to the Quran and the Sunnah and da'wah ilallah. However, as a part of that, it's impossible to separate the fact that good manners is a part of the da'wah, because good manners is a part of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ma min shay'in athqalu fi mizan al-mu'min yawm al-qiyamah min husn al-khulq, wa inna Allah yubghidu al-fahish al-badi." He said, there isn't a thing which weighs heavier on the scale of the mu'min on the day of judgment than good manners. And verily, Allah hates wicked and sinful speech. وَسُئِلَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ عَنْ أَكْثَرِ مَا يُدْخِلُ النَّاسَ الْجَنَّةَ. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about what is the thing that brings the people into paradise the most. فَقَالَ تَقْوَى اللَّهِ وَحُسْنُ الْخُلْقِ. And he said as an answer, he said, fearing Allah and having good manners. وَسُئِلَ عَنْ أَكْثَرِ مَا يُدْخِلُ النَّاسَ النَّارَ فَقَالَ الْفَمُ وَالْفَرْجُ. So then the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what is the thing that brings the people into the hellfire the most? And he said, al-fim, the mouth, and al-farj, the private parts. So many of our sins, they come from those two places. So we can see that many people have abandoned so much of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So how is it possible you can say you are representing Salafiyyah or you are part of the Da'wah to Ahl Sunnah? Now, the Sheikh goes on to say, so he says, yes, amongst the Salafis today are those who cause the people to flee and test the people in their religion. They harm the Salafi minhaj due to their disgusting statements and strange actions, due to their oppression and ignorance. And those are horrible traits, to oppress people and to be ignorant. In fact, due to their detested hizbiyah for individuals and personalities, due to their criticizing people who, when the same matter is found in who they love, they do not criticize. How qawi is that? How strong of an indictment is the Sheikh's speech? How many of us have witnessed this over years of different individuals and personalities calling to themselves and claiming it's Salafiyyah, calling to their clique and their crew, and when their clique and their crew do a major sin, they cover it and they're really good about it and it's okay. But then when someone else even begins to make a mistake, they quickly write a ban. They quickly publish an article. They quickly go on the minbar and they quickly renounce them. This is the double standards, which is not from Salafiyyah. And that's the whole crux of this treatise that the Sheikh is letting us know and giving us some introduction to why he wrote this, to deal with this. And one of the things I do want to mention is understand that this doesn't have anything to do with the context in any particular country, meaning this is not what the Western Salafis go through uniquely. No, this happens in Indonesia. This happens in Somalia. This happens in Ethiopia. And let me just say, I've seen it in Ethiopia. And I've also had direct contact with those who've told me about it in Indonesia. So it happens all around the earth. We know it. Excuse me. It happens in Algeria. It happens in Morocco. It happens in Egypt, where people begin to break into Hizbiyah. It happens in Philly. It happens in Jersey. It happens in Seattle. It happens all around, and may Allah forgive us and guide us and have mercy upon our souls. So again, he says, yes, amongst the Salafis today are those who cause the people to flee and test the people in their religion. Now, how many people they get on and they're always say, what's your position about this one? Do you still say this about this one? Do you like this one? Have you noticed this one? Have you listened to the tapes of this one or the seen on YouTube this one? Okay, they're always looking for a reason to try to test you so they can put you in a category. They can either say, well, you're maybe you're Mumayya, you're not really Salafi, or you're a Mubtadi'ah, or you're this, or you're that. People are always looking to test you. And this has also become a great fitna amongst Ahlul Sunnah, that there's been many individuals who, because of their extremism, as we're saying, and really a lot of what the Sheikh is, in light of what he's talking about, and in light of what many of our mashayikh have written about and spoken about, has more to do with talking about the individuals who become more extreme, meaning they go beyond the bounds of the Dawah to Ahl Sunnah or Dawah to Salafiyyah or Islam, period. They go beyond the bounds, not meaning they're no longer Muslim. No, meaning this tajawuz al-had, meaning Islam is kitab wa sunnah. And they go kitab wa sunnah and they get some of their opinion in there. And they get some of their extremism and how they implement the principles of the book and the sunnah and the madhab of the salaf. This is where they go astray. These are the mistakes that they make. And this is the extremism they fall into. So this became a greater fitna over the years than the people, which is likewise a fitna of the people who are mumayya, meaning that they totally almost like are careless with the principles of Ahl Sunnah. They may have studied in the madrasa to Salafiyyah, madrasa to Ahl Sunnah, but then they're careless with the principles of Ahl Sunnah. They hardly represent it at all, okay? Except for maybe in speech, maybe. And that is also a great fitna and a trial and wrong. But where we've seen more problems is the people who are extreme, who are quickly racing to make tabdi of their brothers and sisters from Ahl Sunnah. That has been a greater fitna because that involves making a hukum on others and breaking apart families and breaking apart communities, okay? So it has way more repercussions than maybe the one who has become watered down in their principles. That's a fitna, that's a problem, but probably a greater problem. And we can see that because why have most of the mashayikh have written more about that, about those trials than vice versa. Okay, there's been more about Haddadiyya, about the extremism of that methodology and so forth, that tajawuz, than there has been about tamir, so to speak, which is a fitna as well. Now, so we can see, because there's so many problems, people begin to test one another. They test you to see what's your position on this, what's your position on this one, So he says, they harm the Salafi minhaj due to their disgusting statements and strange actions, due to their oppression and ignorance, In fact, due to their detested hizbiyah for individuals and personalities, meaning they exalt specific individuals and personalities. So and so is it, his speech is like it is the ruling speech. But no, al-kitab wa sunnah. And we said this yesterday. La yuraf, and this is a statement of Imam Malik. La yuraf al-haq bi-rijal, walakin yuraf al-rijal bil-haq. We don't know the truth by men, but rather we know the men by the truth. Meaning we judge individuals by how they adhere to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. And what has happened, because the Sheikh is talking about who? He's talking about youth and people of Ahl Sunnah, that they have fallen into hizbiyah. And I said this before, the Oromo proverb that when you're pointing the finger this way, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So you have to be careful of being the one who screams at the mountaintop, so-and-so is a hizbi, so-and-so is a mubtadi'ah, so-and-so is this. Of course, that's mashroor if it's done properly with ilm, with fiqh, and practicing the dawabit. But if you're just doing it based on your hawa and based on your personalities and your crew and your clique, and one sheikh said it, and you're just copycatting and copying and paste and putting it out there, then you know that this becomes a problem and this becomes harmful to the people. May Allah forgive us and guide us all. And it becomes, that means that we can fall into hizbiyah ourselves. Now, so he says, in fact, due to their detested hizbiyah, meaning that we can fall into hizbiyah. Okay, it's a trait. It's a variety of methodologies. Okay, and it can be someone who can be on the sunnah can fall into traits of hizbiyah, and this is the danger. This is why he's addressing who? Is he addressing mubtadi'ah? No, he's addressing youth of Ahl Sunnah. He's saying be merciful to Salafiyyah. Why is he saying this? He's saying this to who? Who's his audience? Who is his perceived audience? Who is his expected audience? Who is the audience he wants to address? It is the people of the Sunnah. And it's the people who've made mistakes from the Sunnah, and it's voicing what a lot of youth have experienced and what they're afraid to articulate. And even mashayikh have experienced this, and some of them have not written about it or spoken extensively about it. Now, so he says, in fact, due to their detested hizbiyah for individuals and personalities, due to their criticizing people who, when the same matter is found in who they love, they do not criticize. So one of their friends can make the same mistake as someone who they don't like, who's been teaching the sunnah for years and years and years, but they've thrown him under the bus for a mistake or something. But yet their own compadres, their own companions, their own crew might do some of the same things or worse, and they're silent. Shh, don't say anything. Okay, this is a masiba, and this double standard is not reflective of Salafiyyah. That's what we have to know. That's really the crux, the core of what the Sheikh is saying and what we could derive from this. He goes on to state, he says, they harm the Salafi minhaj by propping up people as measures of association and disassociation, meaning al-wala wal-bara. We're not supposed to have necessarily al-wala wal-bara based on ashkhas, based on individuals. I can't say whoever loves Sheikh Rabi' is on the haq. Whoever doesn't like Sheikh Rabi' is on batil. We can't, we have to be very cautious of those kind of statements. And unfortunately, people have made their love and hate based on individuals from the scholars and individuals from du'at and personalities. But rather, again, going back to the statement that Sheikh Rabi himself says, which is a statement of Imam Malik and some of the Salaf, La yuraf al-haq bi rijal, lakin yuraf al-rijal bil-haq. We don't know the truth by men, but rather we know the men by the truth. We have to measure all of our mashayikh, whether it's Imam Abd al-Masan al-Abad, whether it's Sheikh Rabi', as someone said something about Sheikh Yahya Hujuri, Imam Muqbil bin Hadi, Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, Hassan al-Basri, going all the way back to the Salaf. We look, the truth is not restricted to any one individual. Rather, the individuals are judged by that scale of the book and the Sunnah. How did Hassan al-Basri's statement here, how does it measure on the Quran and the scale of the Quran and the Sunnah? Oh, it's muwafaqa, it's in agreement. Alhamdulillah, we take it, we accept it, and we love that Imam. But if he made a statement which was not in accordance, or from ijtihad, or a mistake, or a slip, or what have you, that is not, we can't accept that. We can't accept it no matter who it is. So it isn't about personalities and individuals. So he says they harm the Salafi minhaj. This is how you harm the dawah, because there's no way we can claim and attack the extreme Sufis and say, why are you exalting Habib Jifri? Why are you exalting this one? Why are you exalting this dead saint? Why are you exalting this one? And then we do the same. And we do the same. Oh, Imam al-Albani said, yes, we love Imam al-Albani. We love Imam bin Baz. We love Imam bin Uthaymeen. Hada a'immat sunnah in this time. Of course, their time has passed. But still, their books are like gold treasures, like golden, I don't know what to describe them as, but they're like a chest full of gold going to the books of those Imams. And as Imam Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad said about Imam al-Albani, he said, الطالب العلم لا what did he say? الطالب العلم لا لا يستغني. I think it was either Bin Uthaymeen might have said this. لا يستغني الطالب العلم عن كتب الألباني. The طالب العلم, the student of knowledge, cannot do without, in this time, without the books of Imam al-Albani. You can't do it as a طالب الحق. لماذا? Why? Because the Imam spent his life and his blood and his sacrifice and his pen making tahqiq of ahadith Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, preserving the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, reviving the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, reviving the way of Ahl Hadith wa Athar. That was Imam al-Albani. So that does not mean, though, Imam al-Albani never made a mistake. Because the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, Kullu ibn Adam. We know this from human error anyway. But again, we want nusus. You want nusus. Nabiyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال, Kullu ibn Adam khata wa khayra khata'ina tawabun. All the children of Adam commit sins or mistakes. And the best of those, meaning those who make mistakes, are those who repent, and they repent often. Now, then he went on to say, so he said that the people, and there's so many beautiful statements, and I've taught so many books here that are bringing you beautiful statements of Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah about this, about making awwal wal-bara to individuals and to your scholars and to your teachers. Sheikh al-Islam was talking about it extensively, and before him, Kathir. He talked about it only because it was the manhaj of the Salaf. The Salaf talked about it. Now, so it's very dangerous. We have to be very careful. So he says they harm the dawah because of this. They harm the dawah by propping up people as measures of association and disassociation. So whoever loves this guy, then you're with us. If you don't like him, you're against it. You're not on the sunnah. We're going to refute you. We're going to say this about you. We're going to slander you. We're going to backbite you. We're going to throw you under the bus. And this is a horrible way that isn't the manhaj of the Salaf. Have a laysa manhaj of Salaf. And that's what we're trying to, we're coming to that. He says, this love and hatred to the extent that due to a person's closeness to them, they are given a certified pass to Salafiyyah. Meaning, I like you. You hang around me. You think I'm good. Hey, you're Salafi, bro. Stick with the brothers. Okay. These people who they have propped up are not those whom the imams of the religion rely upon. Neither are they themselves from the major and well-known imams. It can almost be said that this is detested Hizbiyah in the cloak of Salafiyyah. This is what the Sheikh said. How powerful is that speech? How direct, how accurate, how much diqqah, how much precision is that speech? It's deep. It's really deep if you've watched and you've studied and you've looked at what has happened in our time, just to see the examples of how some of the people sometimes in the cloak, they're wearing the garment of Salafiyyah, But that's not what they're practicing. They're practicing a type of hizbiyah. You got to make awul baral with us, bro. You're not down with us, we might roll on you. And we have some communities, even to that extent, where violence has taken place. That's happened all over the world, by the way. Even in Yemen, I can recall a masjid that was taken over. And it was taken over kind of through violence. Okay? Ikhwan Muslimin doing that. Also, in Ethiopia, and I've told the story before, in a place that, mashallah, this brother, he has property and wealth, so he established a masjid, and he was only inviting the Salafis. Why? Because he saw a Salafi imam be invited to his local masjid once, and he was given a khutbah about, about Tawheed, worshiping Allah alone and not making istighatha to other than Allah. They took him off the mimbar during the khutbah and beat him. Most of those people were Jamaat Tabligh. And worse than that, they weren't just going on khuruj. Those people had extreme bid'ah mukaffara. They did not like what they reviewed as Wahhabi speech, which is call Allah, call Rasul. They didn't like that. That wasn't enough. No, call a dead man so-and-so, call a dead man so-and-so, worship the graves, supplicate to the dead. That's what they wanted to hear. So during the khutbah, they didn't let the Muslim from Ahl Sunnah finish the khutbah. They grabbed the khatib during the khutbah and beat him. And this is true. Naam. Wallah musta'an. So this shows us the danger, what hizbiyah can do. Hizbiyah is a type of sickness. And I know some brothers, we could go on and talk about stories and travesties that have happened in the name of the dawah or in the name of some sort of dawah that people have done. And these are travesties. So he says, yes, there is no flattery in the religion, nor is there any ambiguity in explaining the path of the believers. We may as well bid farewell to Salafiyyah if we do not strive our collective best to rectify Salafiyyah and return those ignoramuses, this is what the Sheikh said, to the garden of ilm, of knowledge and manners, akhlaq, and cultivate them upon loving goodness for people, politeness in speaking, respecting the scholars, understanding the fiqh of priorities, attaching importance to the situation of the ummah, attaching them to the gatherings of the ulama, and attaching importance to the books of the well-known imams and their statements and beliefs. Khalas, we can talk about those things forever. The Sheikh just laid down, and that was just one paragraph, really going into and highlighting so many of the mukhalafat that some people fall into. May Allah forgive us in them. May Allah guide us in them. And this is the danger of hizbiyah in the cloak of Salafiyyah. So as he said, he said, there's no ambiguity in explaining the path of the believers. It should be very clear. You're going to tell a new Muslim, you need to make hajr of this one. Literally, he just took a shahada yesterday. Okay, he was just in the club 2 days ago, and you're gonna say, yeah, you need to. There's a guy over there, and he listens to so and so. Akhi, don't hang around with him, man. Don't. You confuse the people so much with issues way above their level to where people have left Islam because of this. They've left Islam. Communities have been shattered, and we can talk about personal experiences and things we've witnessed over the years, where whole communities were devastated because of the lack of fiqh, of how to deal with mistakes of people who claim to be on the sunnah, and others being vigilant and trying to bring them down. Haris. It takes hikmah and wisdom in how we deal with one another. That's fiqh fi deen. And that's a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that this, no doubt, you're not going to destroy Salafiyyah, but you might destroy the dawah in an area, and you might bring the people back, and you might make the people hate the dawah. Look how much now, there was a time when mentioning Salafiyyah and going back to the madhab of the Salaf had more izzah to the people. The people thought that was a respectful thing. Now it's only some people, because there are many people who say, who are they hate it. As soon as you say that, they shut down because they've had bad and negative experiences. Again, this is not in the West. It's not particularly the West. This is in Saudi Arabia. I think Saudi Arabia is one of the few places where it's more widespread, where you won't have that. Okay, if you say Salafiyyah, everybody, even the people who have Akhwani tendencies, will accept that. But in many other places, if you go to the Awam in Yemen, for example, and you say Dawah to Salafiyyah, that might turn off some of the people. And if you say that to the general Muslims in Ethiopia, and the general Muslims in Somalia, and the general Muslims in Indonesia, and the general Muslims in Malaysia, you know, they might have a problem with that. And they will go and rather gravitate to the people of Tasawwuf and the people of other kind of mukhalafat. Why? Because they've had such negative experience and seen so much infighting and so much discord from people who claim to be from Ahl Sunnah, and sometimes it is plain and simple from people who are from Ahl Sunnah making this mistake and not thinking about the repercussions overall for the da'wah. That's why it takes fiqh fi deen to give da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's fiqh fi deen. That's fiqh fi deen. Now, and then he mentions he says the importance of respecting the scholars and cultivating the people on goodness and wanting good for one another. This is so important. I was just shown a video an half hour ago, and it was in Philly of Masjid Nabawiyah. I believe this is Hassan Somali's community. And I was so impressed how many they were praying in the streets. It was so beautiful. It made me want to just go. I was like, man, I need to this summer try to go to visit Philly just to go and, you know, kick it with the brothers and really meet the brothers and go to the different communities. Of course, that wouldn't be the infighting, unfortunately, is a big problem. But to see that was beautiful, to see so many ranks in the streets. They have so much ability that they could affect. They've already affected Philly in so many positive ways, Ahl Sunnah and the Muslims in general. But just think if they were really showing the love and giving the da'wah with compassion and giving the da'wah with wisdom and gentleness, how many more people would be on the da'wah? I was so impressed to see that many people. It was just rows and rows. They had streets shut down. That's for one masjid in Philly. That's not even all the other. It's like they almost can make a Muslim country practically, you know, because I think you can do the adhan in the street there. So it shows they have such power and potential. But is that potential being realized? Are we cultivating the youth to abandon sin, to be on good manners and akhlaq, and illustrate that to the non-Salafis, and illustrate that between Salafis, and showing the da'wah to Ahl Sunnah, bel da'wah to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam? Are we doing that? Is that what we're doing, or are we doing something else? And this is the problem, where we have all over, we find, if we ask that question, a lot of times we'll find within ourselves, hey, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. We're not setting that good example. He goes on to state, and we don't even need to go, what he said was what I read, and it suffices what the Sheikh said. He moves on, he goes on to say, have mercy upon a Salafiyyah. This is the first time he mentions that ibarah in the treatise. He says, have mercy upon Salafiyyah. Because why? Mercy upon Salafiyyah, meaning represent it properly. Show the example for the people. Let the people see the light and the guidance. Don't destroy and hurt the people and deter the people and make the people turn away from the da'wah. This is an important call. Give me a second. Naam, what's happening? Assalamu alaikum. No, I don't. I just have my really one. The other one's not working. It's not working. I'm on live right now. So inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, no, I just have the one. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Naam. So the Sheikh goes on to say, have mercy upon Salafiyyah. Be gentle with Salafiyyah. Represent Salafiyyah. Represent the da'wah to Ahl Sunnah Sahih. He says, Salafiyyah is not only jar wa ta'dil. This is so important. We need to hear this. We didn't hear this all the time, unfortunately. Some of the people, they came to Islam. They, alhamdulillah, were blessed to be introduced to the Sunnah, and that's what they were told right off the get-go. Don't sit with this one. We criticize this one. Here's the conditions for this one. Stay away from these tapes. And they don't know anything about the Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. And they don't know much about Tawheed. And they don't know anything about the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. No, that's the wrong. We've gotten our priorities acts. We've gotten them opposite, upside down. We have to teach the people, inculcate goodness in the people. Look how much fitna that happened in the Arab world that we had to bring it back to America, and we had to bring it back to the UK, and we had to bring it back to Canada. Why? Those people have different needs than they have in the mountains in Yemen. And they have different needs than they have in Medina to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They're different people, different culture, different level of knowledge, different exposure to Islam. Why are you bringing fitna that's having here what's your position on this guy, and you're bringing it into the streets in Philadelphia, and you're bringing it into the streets in Detroit, and you're bringing it in other parts of Michigan? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And I've talked about that extensively in other sittings. May Allah help us and guide us. Ameen. So he says, Salafiyya is not only jarh wa ta'dil, finding pitfalls, investigating mistakes, and appointing ignorant youth to these responsibilities. Allahu Akbar. That is not the da'wah. What did the Sheikh said this? I didn't say this. This is not something we got, but all of us have witnessed this. Salafiyya is not only jarh wa ta'dil, and it's not always finding mistakes of people and investigating mistakes of people and appointing ignorant youth to these responsibilities. People who have not even studied Islam, and you're going to say, hey, I need you, look into the tapes of so-and-so, look into the books of so-and-so, try to find the mistakes in the speech of so-and-so. Let me tell you extensively about the mistakes of these guys and this guy, and Sayyid Qutb said this and this one. Is that the tarbiyah? Is that where we begin? No, that's not the way of the minhaj al-Rabbaniyun. That's not the methodology of the people, the Rabbaniyun, those scholars that are grounded in knowledge, and they teach the people what? They teach the people the simple and the basics before the extensive, before the more detailed affairs. Kama qala Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. This is what Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, said something similar to this. I've just paraphrased it. This is what Rabbani, because it comes from the word, if you know a little bit of Arabic, tarbiyah, tarabbi. That the one who, tarbiyah is like education. So it's like when you have an education and when you learn in steps and stages, like you memorize the Quran. You're not going to memorize the Quran in a week and be able to retain it. But no, it's in steps. You're learning a little bit. Your reading is getting better. Your tajweed is getting better. You're sitting with your teacher. You're improving step by step. You learn the Arabic language. What? In stages, step by step. How do the Arabs know? How do the Arabs learn Arabic? Well, they learn it by listening first. If you grow up in your home and your mother and your father speak Arabic, you're not going to speak in Spanish. You're going to speak in Arabic. And how do you do it? Is it because they learn nahu and sarf and stuff like that? No. They learned what? They listened and they communicate. And that's how you acquire language. And what is that? It's in stages. It's in steps. It's a process. It's a process. And this is the way knowledge is. The best way knowledge is given. We start with the awlawiyat. We start with the most important affairs, and then we get to the other stages and the other levels. Okay. And this is what the scholars, what you see from them. You see them teaching that. You don't see the scholars teaching you, very extensive books, and you've never studied some of the basic stuff. Okay. It's in steps. It's in stages. Now. And so, and also, appointing, as the Sheikh mentions, appointing ignorant youth to these responsibilities. How many people are cut and paste? What do you call them? Social media pundits, social media trolls, and stuff like this, who their whole job is pleasing someone else who might be a student of knowledge, looking for mistakes of other people so that they can feed it to those people who can refute those people or pat them on the head and say, you did a great job in spying for me. Thank you. And getting the mistakes of so-and-so. Wow, great. Thank you. You're Salafi too. Okay. No, that's not how you get your credentials. That's not how you get your part on the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is why you see this is such an important treatise the Sheikh wrote. And this is I have to look at the date. But this is very old when you think about it, how old this treatise is and how relevant it is, Subhan Allah. He said, the number of the scholars of the Salaf is only known to Allah. Jarh wa ta'deel and clarifying the situation of men is a communal responsibility for the people of knowledge, taqwa, piety, and sincere advice for the Muslims. Naam, the Prophet ﷺ said, what did he say? He said, ad-din nasiha. He said, the religion is sincere advice. Liman, he was asked, for who? He said, lillahi, wa li kitabihi, wa li lillahi, wa li kitabihi, wa li a'immatul muslimin wa ammatihim. It's for Allah, it's for his book, it's for his messenger, and it's to the leaders of the Muslims and the main Muslim and the Muslim body. Ad-din nasiha. Naam. So he says, this is for the people of knowledge and taqwa and piety and sincere advice for the Muslims. They are the people who know what necessitates a jarh, what ta'deel means. They are the people who can Islamically proportion the punishment by way of harshness, boycotting, cutting off, and rebuking, meaning that everybody shouldn't be involved in those sciences. Everybody should not be in the fitna. Everybody should not be appointing themselves, and they don't have knowledge to be speaking about this one, getting involved in controversy about this one. What did Imam Fawzan said? He said the beginning student, he said a talib al-ilm mubtadi wa awam, the basic student of knowledge, the new student of knowledge, and the general Muslims have no place in the issue of takfir, with tabdi', with tafsiq. They don't have a role there. That's not their job. As they say nowadays, it's above their pay grade. Why? You should stay in your place because that requires knowledge. And as the Sheikh mentioned, he says knowledge, taqwa, piety, sincere advice. That means you have ikhlas lillah. That's what that is when he says sincere advice. When the Prophet ﷺ said ad-din nasiha, and they said liman, he said for who? He said lillahi. That's called ikhlas. That means you're sincere in your worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, he says, as for today, the affair of the Salafis is that everybody has become a person who criticizes and praises. Everybody criticizes everybody else. This difficult field has been traversed upon by every docile person. Every foolish young person speaks regarding these manners. Every lowly ignoramus, this is the Sheikh's kalam, not me. In fact, even a person who has just reverted to Islam, he does not know anything about the basics of the Sharia, the principles of the religion, nor the rulings of tahara, purification, and salat. He enters into Islam on the basis of it. Is an obligation to show loyalty to so-and-so. Okay, that's the point we were just mentioning, that some of the people, they just became Muslim. They just took their shahada, and the people are forcing them into camps and positions and this. Stay away from this one. Don't go to that masjid. Don't do this. Do that. Be with this person. Our imam is the best. All kind of weird and strange, almost a type of propaganda, which is not only confusing for the person, but it's not raising them with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and raising them in knowledge. You're confusing them. Some people leave Islam because of that. And some people, they go to other groups because of that and sects. Why? Because they saw only fitna and discord. And they didn't learn the principles of the deen. They didn't begin with tawheed. And as the Sheikh mentioned, tahara, learning how to purify yourself and things like this, and learning how to pray properly. But yet you know all the details about Abu Hassan Ma'rabi, and you don't even speak Arabic. That's amazing. And that's a ghareeb, jiddan. He goes on to say, and also he said, he enters into Islam on the basis of it is an obligation to show loyalty to so-and-so and be an enemy to so-and-so, and frequents forums and gatherings of qil wa qal, rumor mongering and hearsay. That is high-powered. That is high-powered. The scholars are aware of these issues. That's why they wrote these treaties, and that's why they advised with this. And I'm going to tell you true what happened to us when we went to Damaj. We were able to get a sitting with Imam Muqbil, and it was just Westerners, basically. So at that time, my Arabic, I couldn't, communicate. I could read and write a little bit, but I couldn't speak at all. And so, we had a translator as well. So I remember a good friend of mine, Abu Bilal Swady from Sweden, Hafidullah Ta'ala, that he was, I believe, if I recall right, he was there and he was the translator. And then there were some other American students of knowledge. Some of them, I was just asked about Rashid Barbie yesterday. He was there, and others. And I remember Imam Muqbil sat us down and he said, so we asked, what, Sheikh, what do you advise us? And he said, memorize what you can of the Quran, the book of Allah. He said, also learn as much as you can of the Arabic language, so that way your tongue is straight. And then he said, and be away from kathra taqil wa qal. I'll never forget that. Inshallah ta'ala, the rest of my life. Okay. The third thing he said was exactly what Sheikh Bedr is saying here. Stay away from rumor mongering and hearsay, because the scholars know that is a big waste of time and it's a big sin. And on top of that, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that in a Sahih hadith. That destroyed some of the people who came before us. Why? They were slandering, mongering, rumor mongering and all this stuff, getting into controversy instead of what? Instead of, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and following the way of the Anbiya, alayhim afdal salatu wassalam. He says, a person becomes known due to what he frequently does. Due to their actions, ears refuse to listen to their statements. Eyes hate to see what they put forth. And righteous, pious souls hate their sittings. In fact, even their Twitter accounts and websites. This is not Salafiyyah. So the Sheikh here is pointing out to the fact that some of the people of Ahlul Sunnah, they become so repugnant to others, no one wants to be in their company and listen to them, except for their cheerleaders and followers. Okay? Why? Because if all you're hearing is negative and how to tear other people down, how is that going to benefit your soul? How are you going to feel good about your Islam and growing your Islam? And I'm going to tell you also a real thing that happened when I was in Saudi Arabia. So this is my first year in Saudi Arabia, actually. Either my first or my second, because I lived 2 years in Ha'il. And I remember we were in a gathering with my Sheikh Saeed bin Halal. Also, Sheikh Aid al-Shamri was there. And a lot of Tulab al-Ilm, mainly Saudis. And perhaps my brother Omar, who's American. And also my beloved, one of my Mashayikh, Sheikh Ihab Nader, who's from Palestine. So we were all there. And I remember we were at what's called the istiraha. It's like a guest house. And so you have barbecue, you have tons of rice, and you eat, and the mashayikh speak. So because Sheikh Faleh al-Harbi at the time, who was very popular, they used to translate on espubs and all this stuff, he was very popular. So he came from Medina, because he was from Medina. And he came from Medina to visit us in Hayal. So we had him at the Isra. We ate a good, mufatta, probably, like rice, and I forgot what mufatta is. It's like the sheep or something. I don't remember. Anyway, we ate well. And then the Sheikh was speaking. And I'll never forget, because that was the first time I'd ever heard Sheikh Faleh and ever met him. And the whole night, and I'm not exaggerating, may Allah forgive us and him, he passed. And he died kind of on Hizbiyah, plain and simple. We just got to say it as it is. So the Sheikh, the whole night, all he was talking about was Sayyid Qutb. There was hardly any ayat or hadith. It was all that. And Sayyid Qutb in this book, Sayyid Qutb, like hours. Okay, fine. Sayyid Qutb, akhta here, major sin here, major this. Okay, enough. Tell us, qala Allah, qala Rasul. You came from Medina. Break it down for us, Sheikh. But it was like hours of that. So then I whispered to Abu Abdurrahman. I said, Ya Abu Abdurrahman. I said, keva ilmihi. How is his knowledge? And he said he's wasat. He's in the middle. But don't tell anyone I said this. And that shows you that some of the people, sometimes even people of status and knowledge, that have some knowledge. Okay, because Sheikh Abdul Masin al-Abad spanked him very big. If you're aware, if you've read his book Rifkin, then you'll know he spanked Faleh al-Harbi very harshly in that book. But anyway, some of the people, they do have some knowledge, but the tarbiyah, something went wrong in that they're they're giving tarbiyah, they're giving the wrong tarbiyah, they're educating their own youth and the students of knowledge the wrong way, teaching them to get into gossip and rumor mongering and kind of like the mistakes of people, instead of building those students to carry the flag of the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and say qala Allah qala Rasul. And that's what the true knowledge is, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala so eloquently put. I think maybe we'll look and see if there's any questions, and I think we'll stop there. We'll take our time. We're not in a rush. We'll spend a couple of days and finish this because it's very short, but we're going to take our time, inshallah ta'ala, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil, protect us from kulli su' makruh. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. If there's any questions, inshallah ta'ala, we will try to take them bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Naam. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Something is telling me that Sheikh Yahya al-Hujuri is going to be one of the imams of our times. I even did an istikhara and had an ajib instance regarding him. Allahu alam. Okay. Only Allah knows. Ustad, what's your view of Sheikh Ahmed Jan, Jolani? Are you talking? Is this the one, the president of Syria? Is that what you're talking about? That's the only Jalani. Is that his last name? Yeah, I think that's his name. Anyway, I've been asked this question a few times. Not sure why, and it really doesn't matter if what my view is of him. But what I will say is he is now, if this is the same Jilani we're talking about, or Jolani, that he is the leader of Syria now. I mean, he's the leader. So Islamically, we do not speak ill about the Muslim ruler. He's not my Muslim ruler because I'm not under the Dawlat Hashem. I'm not under the protection and the wilaya or anything of Syria. But he is now the leader of Syria. So me striving to practice the methodology of the Salaf, then the minhaj of the Salaf is to be ba'id, on the way of the people of takfir and the people of tafsiq and so forth. So my view is he's the new president, he's the leader of that country, and we make dua that Allah rectifies his condition, and we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses Syria and the people from the suffering and protects them from the evil of the Yahud, wa Nasara, wa ghayra dhalika min ahl kufr wa shirk wa ilhad. And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses them with success and everything good and protects them from everything evil and blesses them in wealth and prosperity and tamessik bi kitab wa sunnah. So this is what we pray and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. Now, how do you differentiate between having hizbiyah to a sheikh and accepting that imam as qabul amongst the nas, so their speech is raised with you? I don't know. I don't understand that question. But the main thing is knowing what hizbiyah is. If you know what hizbiyah is, you stay away from those traits. Meaning, I have many mashayikh that I love. But I don't say, well, the truth is with Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli. The truth is with Sheikh Suleiman Raheli. Like they can never make mistakes, or they've never made a mistake. Or the truth is with Imam Abdul Masin al-Abad, or Imam bin Uthaymeen never had any. No, that's not from Dawat Islam. So rather, as we said before, we love the imams in accordance with their tamessik bi sunnah. And some imams, as our Sheikh Imam Salih al-Suhaimi, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, mentioned, he says, what means, ba'd an-nas, some of the people, yusib kathir wa yukhti qalil. So he mentioned this about one of our imams, one of our mashayikh, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatan wasi. He said, he's our sheikh. That's what Sheikh Salih Suhaimi said to me about one of our other mashayikh. He says, he's our sheikh. And he said, وَهُوَ يُصِيب كَثِير وَيُخْطِي قَلِيل. He gets things correct a lot, and he makes mistakes minimally. But some of his students afterwards, they make many mistakes and get things correct sometimes. And that's what Sheikh Salih Suhaimi was giving me advice, because I asked him a question about certain things that were going on that I was going to involve myself in, and the Sheikh advised me beautifully. Naam. So the point is to stay away from blind following, to seek knowledge so you have some tools. So even when you're mashayikh, the mashayikh you love, you spent time under those beautiful beards, that when they differ, what are you going to do? Are you going to pull your hair out and pull your beard out and fall over? No. You're going to tamassak bi sunnah, and you're not going to get involved in every fitna that happens between scholars, and you're not going to have to be a cheerleader for anyone. Rather, you look to see where the truth. If Sheikh so-and-so refutes Sheikh so-and-so, hopefully you have enough knowledge to where you can go into the issue and say, well, Sheikh so-and-so, he refuted him, but really what he was saying was not exactly accurate, because I read here and I heard here, or I was in that gathering and I saw the, okay? So then you have tools. And so that way you're not blind following and having blind prejudice, because blind prejudice and blind following are traits of Hizbiyah. So so stay away from the traits of Hizbiyah. That's all I can say, and I don't understand the rest of that statement you said. Good. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, all of us struggle reciting, so keep reciting, and you're rewarded immensely for every aspect of of your recitation. When you're trying to recite the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially if Arabic is not your language, you are rewarded immensely, double than those who are Arab. You know, it's their language and tongue. So keep and continue reciting, and you'll see that you will improve. And the Arabs themselves, they have a beautiful statement, which is من جد وجد ومن زرع حسد. Hasad with a sod. Forgive my English, my American dialect. So which means من جد وجد, whoever makes an effort, they're going to gain something. They're going to get it. وَمَنْ زَرَعَ, and whoever plants something, they're going to reap something from it. If you put a seed, بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, and everything's going in the favor there, and you've done it correctly, بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, it's going to grow something. So this is the point, is by making an effort. And if you're making an effort, you're going to be rewarded immensely by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and keep reciting and keep doing the best. Now, is it okay to watch YouTube tutorial as I learn while I pray? I'm just beginning. So watch the tutorials outside of the prayer itself. Okay, don't watch the tutorial and just pray. You can practice like that with the tutorial. But when you actually pray at the time of prayer, don't watch the YouTube video. Okay? So you can learn by watching it and watching it over outside of the actual prayer time. And also, you can get someone to help you who bi'idhnillah ta'ala is, a person has some knowledge and at least prays correctly, bi'idhnillah, who can help you to perfect your prayer. And perhaps your local imam can help you with that as well in your local community, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So be patient, keep reciting, obviously keep praying, and keep seeking help and assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Fidha sta'anta fasta'in billah." If you seek help, seek it from Allah. Now, if there are no other questions, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive them and forgive our evil and protect us from kulli su' wa makruh. What's the best city to live if I can't make hijrah overseas? Las Vegas is not the best community. Definitely Las Vegas is a place of great trial and tribulation. I know there's a lot of Muslims there now. I was just in Las Vegas, maybe, and visited one of the communities there, maybe right before this school year. So it was the summer. It was in July. In July, I was in Las Vegas for a couple of days, and I was in Oakland, California for a few days as well. And both places, I enjoyed going to the communities I went to, but there's so much fitna and craziness, especially being in Vegas. Even when the non-Muslims say about Vegas that it's the sin city, then you know it's a place of trouble. So that is a place of trouble. But I did enjoy. I can't remember if it was Masjid Bilal or what it was called that I went to, and I was really happy to see their building. It was a masjid that was built by Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali when he was living, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatin wasiya, that they are the ones who put the money up. So now, if not, I don't know as far as the best city. I don't know, because all Masjid Sabr, yes. I went to Masjid Sabr, so I prayed there a couple of times when I was coming and going through Vegas, because I flew out of Vegas, flew into Vegas, and drove from Vegas to Oakland, California. Anyway, ala kulli hal, I think it depends on your situation, for one, because there are some communities that have lots of Muslims and lots of potential and lots of students of knowledge in mashayikh, but they also are places of great fitna and sin, like immersions and severe sins all around you. But at the same time, you have a very strong, students of knowledge and lectures and classes. So those things help you get grounded. And I know that to be the case in a lot of places in the East Coast. And things have changed so much. Even the West Coast has places that are good, I'm sure. I would be less aware because I spent most of my time so much over in Saudi Arabia and Yemen that I haven't been as in touch with what's going on in America. And I've been in America back now for about 4 going on 5 years. 2019 I came back. So I'm from Seattle, Washington. I love Washington. That's where I'm from. My mother's there. Now I have family there and things like that, and I love, I feel comfortable in some of the communities there. But we also have the issue of gangs now. A lot of Muslim gangs, especially the East Africans, the Somalis, and the Ethiopians especially, are really caught up. Especially more the Somalis, but even the Ethiopians, they're getting killed, killing each other. But I think Somalis more because they're just more in number and they've been there longer. So the East Africans are having a big trauma. Even the Gambians are being affected. We have a huge Gambian community now. And then we have a huge Indo-Pakistani community too, but they tend to be more Deobandi. And so anyway, ala kulli hal, I really can't tell you. Every community, different cities, they have their own benefits and drawbacks. And it also depends if you're married or not, if you have a family, because if you have a family, then those are other things to consider. I literally talked to somebody in Seattle today, and he was calling me, and he said, we're trying to do some things with the youth because the youth they're shooting each other. They're killing each other. And he's talking about mainly Somalis. And I said, yeah, Nam, it's a big problem. But I said, I'm no longer even in that state. So I said, yeah, well, whenever you come back, if you come back sometimes, I said, yeah, maybe we can do some things, help out. But so everywhere you go, there's going to be different tests, so I think the main thing is find a community that you're comfortable with, that you can grow in, that you're learning knowledge. If you have the opportunity to go overseas and study, this is beautiful. If not, study wherever you are. And if not locally, now you can online. There's so many opportunities. So, but I advise you to definitely have good companionship. Be around good people wherever it is. So even if it's in Vegas, if there's some good brothers that that are good and they're serious and they're good company and they will help you, then this is awesome. This is great. And this will be comfortable. Naam. So this is what I would advise in general. If you have the chance to go back to Egypt, that's beautiful too. Egypt, I enjoyed Egypt. I mean, I was only there like a week, but I felt like I could have stayed in Egypt. You know, it's a little rough around the edges in some ways, and may Allah forgive us and the people, but I also I felt the vibe. I felt like I could stay there. So I feel pretty comfortable in most of the Arab countries, especially some of the African countries. I haven't had a lot of opportunity, but I've been to Tanzania and some other places. But yeah, the earth is spacious. So I think finding a place where you can you can seek some knowledge and you can at least have good companionship, someone who's some good friends that are Muslim that you can trust that are going to help you adhere to the book and the sunnah and help you to be on good. So that's very important. Hayyakallah, Sheikh Hassan. May Allah bless you. Hafidhakum Allah. أريد أن أزوركم بإذن الله إن شاء الله تعالى لكن في ظروف لكن إن شاء الله في مستقبل أزوركم في أردن إن شاء الله بإذن الله حفظكم الله. نعم. نعم. Don't know a lick of Arabic. Can I become good at conversations in 5 months? Be honest, I know how to read. So one of the things with learning Arabic, you have to think about what is your qasd? What is your intent? Do you want to learn Arabic because you want to learn the book and the sunnah? If that is your intent, conversation is not as important. You want to learn the reading and the writing and improve your comprehension skills. But if you want to live in an Arab country specifically, and then you're going to need to learn communicative Arabic as well. Okay. Which is different. So if you want to learn Arabic because you want to read the news in Arabic, is quite different than you want to read Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah's some fatawa, Majmu'ah fatawa or something like this. Very different. So you have to determine what you want. As far as going to learn Arabic in a few months, it's great to get introduced, but you're not going to gain, if you want to seek knowledge, you need to go spend at least a few years to ground yourself in some of the Arabic language and hopefully study some of the sciences, study some of the Quran, study something of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, study some basic fiqh, tahara, purification. All of that, it takes time. It takes time. You're not going to get Islamic knowledge like this, and that goes back to what I said, it's in stages. And that is a beautiful statement. Ahl Yemen, the people of Yemen, they say, dala dala, dala dala, which means khutwa khutwa, which means step by step. We learn Arabic, we learn Islam, we learn sciences. Everything is in stages. You learn whatever, anything. It's going to take time and stages. You don't just jump and that you're going to get it in 5 months. In 5 months, you could be in a very nice program and you can improve yourself. There are some very good opportunities, especially in Egypt, to study in very intensive programs. And I do highly advise if you have that opportunity, you can do that. And that will help you to read and write and speak, because they have some Egyptians generally very very well educated. A lot of high, a lot of people that are from non-Arab speaking countries, they go to Egypt, non-Muslims even, and they study. There's a lot of institutes there. Again, I don't have extensive knowledge as far as being in Egypt. I've only been one time, and I was only there for maybe a week. But I know enough people who've lived there, who studied there, and come out very strong, especially in the Arabic language and in Quran and stuff. So there's many opportunities. So I would say, try if you can to not even put that limit of 5 months. Try to put at least a year or two if you can. But if you can only do 5 months, then alhamdulillah, you can benefit. But put your head down. And this goes to some beautiful advice some of the scholars mentioned, that one of the things, stay away from the gossip. Be away, as we said in the dars, be far away from qil wa qal. Don't get into controversy. Oh, he said, she said. I want to know about this. No, put your head down and study. And I know a brother, he's a talib al-ilm that from America, and he memorized the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Egypt. And when the other people were getting into qil wa qal, they were talking about this and this, he memorized. He just sat and he, memorized in his Arabic. And then he came to Yemen, and that's where I met him, in Yemen. And so Yemen, he was studying there. Then we met each other again back in Sardiya. He lived in the Eastern Province. So, and he was able to benefit from many great ulama there. Why? Because he already memorized the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he memorized so much from the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and his Arabic was on point. So it's in steps and stages. And the point of mentioning that is because he put his head down. Other people were getting into controversy. He sat in Egypt and he memorized the Quran. I don't know a lot of reverts, not a whole lot from America that memorized the Quran like that, memorized the whole Quran. Even a lot of the students of knowledge that went to Jama Islamiyah and other places, they might not have memorized the whole Quran there. They might have memorized something of the Quran. So, that's quite a beautiful accomplishment. And this is the result, the tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thumma, then, putting in that effort and not getting caught up in wasting your time and in controversy. Don't get caught up in fitna and garbage. And I could talk on and on about that because I've met so many brothers and sisters in traveling, especially going to Yemen and places like that. And people warn you, don't go to this place, don't go to this place. And then you have no option to study. No, if you go all the way, you spend thousands of dollars to go to Egypt or go to Yemen or go wherever, go to Jordan, and you better make sure you benefit. Don't waste your time. Don't go there and just play around. No, go and get in an institute or sit with mashayikh or wherever you have that guidance from, that you go and get it, because that's a rare opportunity that Allah has favored you with, and you don't want to leave, and not have studied. I've known people who've lived in Yemen 10 years. I'm sorry, in Saudi Arabia for 10 years, and they don't know Arabic yet. They still have to have the khutbah translated for them, or just the general. And for me, that was never an option. I was not going to go out like that. I lived in Yemen. For me, it was very important to sit with ulama to benefit. I had purchased a lot of books when I went to Yemen. So I was like, man, I got to learn and learn what these books mean. This means a lot to me. So I was persistent over the years, different studies, different places, trying to improve my Arabic. So it's very important. It's a process, and it's step by step. Naam. Naam. Yes, if you can go to Egypt, that's good. Egypt is more open for you to go to, and that would be excellent. Yes, you could move there. You could, I don't know what it's like to get iqam, to stay there for a long term. You have to have some sort of iqama there in Egypt. But it's much easier than many other places. Actually, one of my mashayikh here, Sheikh Nasser, is on here, and he's from Egypt, so he could tell me probably more details. I don't know if he's still in Sardiya. Hayakallah, Sheikh Nasser. Hafadhakum Allah. So I don't know what it takes to, I think Nasser, you're from Egypt, sah? So I don't know if he's still on there, but anyway, Naam. So I don't know what it takes to live in Egypt. I'm not sure. Naam, that's very important. If you want to seek knowledge, then you do want to avoid getting in, wasting time, getting into controversy, especially. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't, they do waste time. It doesn't matter where they go. People in Jama Islamiyah who had to drop out. Why? Because they were wasting time. And then people who were in Yemen who had a chance to be in Damaj and they wasted time. It could be anywhere. It's not about the place. It's about what you what you put into it. In the binniyat, verily actions are tied to the intention. So if your intention is to seek talib al-ilm, then then you need to put your head down and be serious about it. وفقنا وإياكم إلى كل ما يحبه الله ويرضاه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حفظكم الله. بارك الله فيكم. نعم.